President Donald Trump has announced a 90-day pause on tariffs for most nations.
The CDU, CSU and SPD have agreed on a coalition agreement. The agreement paves the way for new leadership in Europe's biggest economy after months of political drift.
King Charles III and Queen Camilla attended a state dinner at the Quirinali Palace on Wednesday evening. President Donald Trump has announced a 90-day pause on tariffs for most nations, except China, on whose imports he has raised the tax rate to 125%. Asked by a reporter why he'd made the decision, Trump said he'd been watching the bond market and people were getting a little queasy.
Well, I thought that people were jumping a little bit out of line. They were getting yippy, you know. They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid, unlike these champions, because we have a big job to do. Yeah.
Trump added, however, that he was still honoured to have initially imposed the tariffs because, he said, somebody had to do it. Global markets soared after the announcement, with the Dow Jones index surging by 2,000 points just minutes later. The White House has made it clear, however, that a universal 10% tariff would still apply in the meantime while trade negotiations take place.
US President Donald Trump authorizes a 90-day pause in trade tariffs for countries other than China, according to a post on his social media. The revised tariffs of 125% on imports from China are to take immediate effect because, quote, the lack of respect China has shown the world's markets. Earlier on Wednesday, China imposed 84% tariffs on US goods, taking effect on Thursday, according to a Chinese Finance Ministry statement on Wednesday. One expert said before Trump imposed once again new tariffs that China wouldn't hesitate to continue to retaliate.
If the United States wants to use maximum pressure against China, China definitely will launch more rounds of restrictions against exports of rare metals to the United States. That will take a big bite on the American defense industry, and it may be too late eventually if the United States goes in the wrong direction, forcing China to retaliate against the United States.
Earlier on Wednesday, the Chinese government did not say whether it would negotiate with the White House, as many other countries have started doing. The White House said a universal 10% tariff would apply to all countries while trade negotiations take place. The European Union has approved 25% tariffs on a wide range of US products on Wednesday, including orange juice, steel, aluminium, tobacco and yachts. This follows the US's tariffs on 25% on imports of steel and aluminium from the bloc. Meanwhile, one wine merchant says they are waiting for the US and the EU to hold negotiations.
On attend une négociation, une désescalade, une négociation importante avec les autorités américaines pour leur faire entendre raison et qu'on arrive potentiellement à quelque chose d'une situation plus juste.
EU tariffs will take effect between the 15th of April and the 1st of December to allow time for US talks. The EU is targeting 21 billion euros of US goods annually in response to the US's existing tariffs on 26 billion euros of EU metal exports. Meanwhile, top EU leader Ursula von der Leyen wrote on X, "We negotiate, not escalate." According to the EU, the Commission is working on a second package of retaliation, which will be presented early next week.
The centre-right party Christian Democratic Union, its sister party Christian Social Union, and the centre-left party Social Democrats have reached an agreement to form a coalition government just 45 days after the snap election in Germany. The party leaders said at the press conference in Berlin that they have reached compromises on key issues such as cutting taxes and stabilising pensions. CDU leader Friedrich Merz said that Germany is now a stable country after 4 years of instability, and his message to Trump is that Germany is back on track. The three parties have been under pressure to reach a speedy agreement after stock markets plummeted in response to US President Donald Trump announcing tariffs across the globe. The next step before the government is formed is that SPD members and an executive committee from the CSU need to vote on the agreement before it can be signed. This is expected to take 10 days. After that, CDU's Merz is expected to be elected as Chancellor, which could be in the first week of May. Liv Stroud, in Berlin, for Euronews.
Public and private employees, pensioners and students have participated in a 24-hour nationwide strike in Greece. The protests were directed at the government's economic policy. The problems this policy is causing not only remain, but they are increasing, they say. One of the demands is that the state should stop spending money on defense systems and start focusing on issues such as the housing crisis and the restoration of Christmas and Easter salary bonuses.
Και πάρα πολλά χρόνια η ζωή όλων των εργαζομένων είναι αφόρητη. Οι μισθοί έχουν καταβαρωθεί, τα πράγματα στα σούπερ μάρκετ είναι απλησίαστα, επομένως ο μόνος δρόμος είναι να βγούμε στους δρόμους και να διεκδικήσουμε τα αιτήματά μας.
Apart from the economy, the focus was also on the Tempe tragedy, the fatal rail collision where a passenger train and a freight train collided head-on, killing 57 people and injuring dozens. Due to the strike action, the public transport timetables were modified. The main slogans of the demonstration were either their profits or our lives and work with rights, life with dignity.
Πραγματικές αυξήσεις που θα αντιμετωπίσουν την ακρίβεια απαιτούν οι πολίτες εδώ στην Αθήνα. Χιλιάδες διαδηλωτές συγκεντρώθηκαν παρά το τσουχτερό κρύο. Απαιτούν συλλογικές συμβάσεις και καλύτερους μισθούς. Από την Αθήνα για το Euronews, Γιώργος Δημητρόπουλος.
The ongoing spread of foot-and-mouth disease across Central Europe has forced several large farms in Estonia to close their doors to visitors. No cases have yet been detected in the country, but outbreaks reported in Hungary and Slovakia have prompted agricultural workers to introduce preventative measures.
Agroturismi ahvatlus ehk näidata tarbijale toiduteekonda põllult taldrikule on väga väike võrreldes selle riski ja hirmuga, mida võimalik pandeemia kaasa toob.
Farms have also implemented several biosecurity protocols on food, the movement of livestock and employee hygiene. Meanwhile, checks to prevent the spread of the disease have led to large queues at the Slovak-Czech border, as transporters of animals, animal products or animal feed can only use 3 crossings when travelling between the two countries. The Czech Republic has not reported any cases of the disease on its territory, but Slovakia has experienced 6 outbreaks of the highly contagious disease in cattle and other animals. King Charles III and Queen Camilla attended a state dinner hosted by President Sergio Mattarella at the Quirinale Palace on Wednesday evening. The event, which coincided with the royal couple's 20th wedding anniversary, came as part of the UK monarch's 4-day state visit to Italy. In a speech at the start of the dinner, President Mattarella praised the UK's commitment to European partnership.
Elemento di fiducia vedere confermato il chiaro e convinto impegno di Londra insieme ai partner europei nella tutela dell'ordine internazionale.
Earlier in the day, the King and Queen met privately with Pope Francis in the Vatican, in the first known meeting since the Pope's stay in hospital. The royal pair also watched a performance of Shakespeare's Othello by Italian drama students, met with school children at the Alessandro Manzoni School in Rome, and greeted tourists while stopping for ice cream at the historic Gelateria Giolitti.
The European Court of Auditors slammed the European Commissions for opaque funding of non-governmental organizations in a new report. After looking at EU funding awarded to NGOs over a 3-year period, it concluded more transparency is needed. At the same time, they found no evidence of misconduct.
Thank you very much for your question. Information on EU funding, including lobbying, is neither reliable nor transparent. For example, the European Commission did not properly disclose certain EU-funded advocacy activities, such as lobbying.
The Financial Watchdog's report comes at a time when the issue of NGOs funding has become politically divisive in Brussels. The Conservative European People's Party claims the Commission instructed NGOs to lobby members of the Parliament to further the policy goals. But NGOs have firmly denied such allegations.
Luckily, the report shows that there is no scandal on NGO funding. It didn't find any evidence of misuse of funds. It didn't find any evidence on what our opponent said was undue lobbying. On the contrary, it confirms that we have the right to receive funding and use that for advocacy activities, and that this is covered by the rules and regulations on which we work.
According to MEP Monica Hohlmeier, the lack of evidence in the Court of Auditors report is due very precisely to the lack of transparency.
As there is no requirement to prove what has been done with the money, you cannot get any evidence, because if they are not required, and they cannot be documented what has been done with the money.
The Court of Auditors has also confirmed that there is no legal barrier for NGOs to lobby lawmakers directly, and in any case, MEPs are required to publish details of all meetings.